Thank you.
So good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this policy committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded. The documents which will be discussed here today are available on the event calendar on our website, which is wmc.wa.gov. I am Amelia Boyd, and I am the program manager for the Medical Commission. Panelists, please make sure your line is muted if you are not speaking. Christine Blake is the chair for the policy committee. Once a presentation is finished, Ms. Blake will open the floor for committee and public discussion. Attendees, if you would like to ask a question or speak, please use the raise your hand function. And if you are not speaking, please make sure to mute your line. With that, I will hand it over to Ms. Blake, and I will pull up the agenda as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boyd, and thank you everyone for attending today. You can see we have several documents to go through today, and we also had several folks that provided some input from the outside that we also have here to go through. So thank you for that. If you've attended and you've presented your concerns or questions, or thank you. Our first document is let me scroll to this myself. I have it on another, so I can use two screens. Is the complaints against students, residents, and fellows policy. I took a look at this myself too, and other than one very teeny tiny change in a typo to a capital letter, I didn't see a whole lot of issues, and that was just on page 2 in the last line. Training program directors, we had the D in directors capitalized throughout the rest of the document. So
we can fix that this way.
Okay.
I do have a question for Amelia, and this is supposed to be reviewing the secretary comments we sent to the secretary review, and I'm not aware of any, but could you correct my assumption if that's not true?
As far as I know, there were no real comments. The biggest comment was that I put it on this new template.
Yes, the attractive letterhead. Yes.
Yeah. So policy statements and interpretive statements will, when you guys see them now, they will look like this because this is what we have to use. But then when they're posted to the website, they will have our header on the top of them. That's the big difference. But that was the only comments that they had, was to put it on the new document, the new template.
Okay.
Okay.
So with that being said, just as a reminder, this particular guidance document policy, this particular policy is a revision and largely does not reflect any sort of a policy change from existing standards. The one major change that occurred, and this was in the process of revising it with Dr. Kohlmeyer when she was here, was how to treat fellows. And so I just transparently, we went kind of back and forth and we settled on her position of fellows have more training and are not quite in the same category as a medical student or a resident or an intern. And so therefore they should be more on a case-by-case basis should we receive complaints and process them through that way. And with that, I'll turn it over to the folks who have their hands raised.
Thank you, Micah. It looks like we have several hands raised. The first, it looks like, is Dr. Domino.
Sorry, I thought Claire was first. Well, anyway, I think this is a vast improvement. Okay. I do disagree with regard to fellows. There are different sort of fellows. Many of these fellows are training in their area of specialty, such as pulmonary medicine, cardiology, and anesthesia. They're training in, critical care. Yes, they've had some training as a resident, but they are not attendings. And so there are some fellows, like in my department, that work, we call them faculty fellows. So they do average anesthesia cases during the course of to pay back the department for their specialized training, which is under the supervision of a faculty member who is specialized in that area in our various specialties. So I think that they should be treated differently. It's come up before, and I remember maybe a few years ago, there was something about a fellow involved in it, and it turned out it was on the fellow's general non-fellowship time, type of things. So clinical care. So maybe it was like someone in cardiology where they were doing average internal medicine. Well, that was taken to account in the review, and they ended up having an issue that again was referred back to the fellowship program. But if they were in cardiology, they are trainees. That's all I can say. And I, as one of the few people who's working on this commission who works in academia for my entire career, I think you need to recognize that. But again, it's much improved.
Dr. Domino, the statement on the screen in front of you about the fellows, does that summarize the consideration that you'd like the policy to take?
My computer's little. The commission typically processes complaints against fellows holding a limited license in a manner, okay. And I don't know what kind of license they are, because a lot of programs make you get a full license as soon as you're able to. It's required by the program, even though you're not working independently. That seems okay. When I read it, I wasn't upset over it, but hearing the comments that came through, I was bothered by the issue with the fellows.
So with respect to fellowship licenses, it's a specific type of license that is issued under 1871-095, which is our limited license section. And all of those licenses may be issued without an examination. It's really the umbrella policy of that. And so it's up to the program whether they want to be a fellow or not. I know that for I guess what we call moonlighting purposes, generally, as soon as someone can get that full license at 2 years, they usually do, because it provides more income ability. But if they were holding a full license and they were a fellow, we would not be able to distinguish that. There wouldn't be an indicator for us. So I think that's really the operationally that'd be the holdup there.
I see.
But if they were clearly identified as a fellowship license, we would be able to delineate that.
So, and most fellows probably don't have a limited license. Is that correct? Even though they can't practice in the area of specialty where they're trying, subspecialty, I should say, where they're attempting to learn and obtain the skills from a fellowship.
I know that we do have some fellowship licenses that get issued and reissued based off a request of the academic program. I don't have the data as far as how many.
Okay, and it's been an issue. I mean, I just saw it in one case I reviewed. I just feel bad for these folks because they are training, and if it really is the attending's responsibility, and it's the institution and attending's responsibility that they ensure adequate training and feedback and coverage in these areas.
Sure. I mean, if it's all right with you, looking at the commission may consider training status involved in standard of care issues, especially those being developed as part of their fellowship training. Does that cover your concern?
Yeah, I think the problem comes that they can investigate it, right? Before you may not even know they're a fellow. Frankly, I don't even often know if they're a resident. And CMT authorizes it, and then it goes to somebody who looks at it. That's what happened in the case I looked at, and I actually, it was a few years ago. That's all. I think it's just they are trainees.
Okay. Sure. Dr. Trescott?
Yeah, I do have a little concern about that, and I think we could actually be clearer in this language and saying that in care that involves their fellowship training, we will manage it like we do other residents. But when they're
Okay.
working outside the bounds of their fellowship, then we would consider complaints as we would any other complaint. So I think there's a way we could put this a little more clearly and safeguard their training would be one of my questions. The other, or my comments. The other thing is I do think this is really good. I don't know if it was in this policy or one of the others where we said that that trainees could still have complaints against them that involved like sexual abuse or other things or DUIs, that and those that don't involve their training, there would be complaints allowed, right? I like that anyway, that we clarified there's the clinical complaints and then there's the personal complaints.
Right. I believe that
Anyway.
is this policy.
Okay. So I tend to agree with Karen, and I think we could be clearer in slicing out their fellowship training time.
All right. I can certainly come up with some language and send that around to the policy committee.
Yeah, I thought Claire's language seemed clear. It was short. Also, there is a hand raised without the hand on the internet down, I don't know who it is, near Kyle on my screen. It's a lady with glasses.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'll have Amelia manage those if we're done with the comments from both you and Dr. Trescott.
Yes.
And okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Funk. You just need to unmute yourself.
You're still on mute.
There should be a little microphone symbol that you should be able to click. Unfortunately, I'm not able to unmute her.
Yeah.
It's on the right upper area of the
Yes.
computer.
Of your screen. There's next to camera. There's a little microphone that it probably has an X through it. There you go.
Oh, yep.
Nope. Now you just muted yourself there.
Okay, am I on now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm very sorry. I didn't understand the displays and I wasn't able to use the raise hand display or the chat. Anyway, I just have 140 words and I sent a more detailed document with citations. I'm a retired family medicine physician who practiced in Yakima for 32 years and I was elected to 4 years on Yakima City Council. And I began speaking out against this systematic intimidation of good and excellent physicians in 2008 when Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital became the only hospital in Washington to ever lose an appellate court decision for dishonest peer review. And I appreciate this clarification of policy regarding complaints against medical students. Medical schools are run by well-educated people with good problem-solving skills who are in the best position to take responsibility for resolution of these problems. And it is also pretty clear that ADA law forbids delegation of authority for punitive sanctions and expulsion to WPHP. The medical schools have to be held accountable for these decisions, and they are ideally placed to perform the due diligence and evidence assessment necessary to improve program quality. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Amelia, do you have anyone else?
There's no other hand. Oh, well, Dr. Domino's raised her hand. And so is Dr. Bundy.
Yes.
Oh, we can let Dr.
Domino.
Bundy respond to that if he wants.
Okay.
I thought it was a later agenda item. I just had one other comment, read the first item.
Go ahead, Dr. Bundy.
Just trying to figure out how to lower my hand. Can you hear me okay?
I'll lower
Yes.
your hand for you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Policy Committee, staff, and guests. I'm Dr. Chris Bundy. I'm the Executive Medical Director of the Washington Physicians Health Program. I would be remiss in my duties to WPHP if I failed to state for the record that WPHP regards the comments provided by Dr. Kay Funk in her letter to the Commission dated February 24th, 2025, in her comments today to be without merit as they apply to WPHP. I'll also assert that WPHP has a strong and collaborative relationship with all 3 medical schools in Washington who place their faith and trust in the work that we do. I believe that this stands in stark contrast to Dr. Funk's comments. It begs the question of how WPHP could maintain the support of these esteemed institutions. As Dr. Funk points out, were those allegations true? Dr. Funk is a well-known critic of WPHP who has aired her many grievances towards the organization in a variety of venues over the last decade or more. She's been an instigator of resolutions hostile to WPHP at the Washington State Medical Association in years past, none of which have been supported by the House of Delegates because her allegations are conspiratorial and without merit. She's repeatedly and irresponsibly used the imprimatur of her medical expertise to make unsubstantiated claims about WPHP based on one-sided stories, opinions from known PHP detractors who share her misguided views and information she obtains on the internet, which she misrepresents as authoritative. She has never made a meaningful effort to engage with WPHP in a collaborative or good faith manner to learn about the program or discuss her concerns in a rational way. Her ongoing dissemination of misinformation discourages ill physicians and those at risk of practicing while impaired from seeking appropriate care. This can cause personal and professionally devastating consequences. Physicians should be held to a higher standard and accountable for promulgating information that places peers and the public at risk. Those familiar with Dr. Funk will not find the letter you received out of character. It's a matter of public record that Dr. Funk was censured by her peers at the Yakima City Council for her consistently disruptive behavior. Dr. Funk has no solutions to offer WPHP or the Medical Commission in proffering this letter, which can only distract us from matters of real importance that require a thoughtful consideration. With that in mind, I will conclude my comments so as to not take up more of your time with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bundy. Dr. Domino, do you want to go next, or would you like Dr. Funk to respond?
Well, I mean, if we're off of the agenda, my item is not, that is important. So why don't you go ahead with this, and then we'll go back to the resident things later.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wish to say that I didn't hear very much content consistent with the scientific standard of evidence from Dr. Bundy. That's all.
Thank you.
So do you have any changes to put forward today to this policy statement other than what Micah has mentioned?
Well, I just had one other question. I kept seeing the words "to protect the public." There are other issues besides this for the commission, and I was to me it seems like slang. It's something I hear a lot of the commissioners say, "Oh, we're here to protect the public." Well, we're also to improve patient safety. We're also to be able to help our docs and licensees, PAs, now AAs coming in to do a better job and to learn from their errors, because to err is human, right? We all make errors. So I was wondering, I mean, I didn't have time to look out on the website. Is that the primary motive of the thing that's in the mission statement alone in the Washington Medical Commission? And if it's not, then maybe we should delete it, or maybe we should add other things that we're trying to do.
Where are you looking specifically, Dr. Domino?
Okay, let me look on my complaints. Page 1 of 3, just under the policy statement, disciplinary role to protect the public. Well, we discipline, but we also educate, right? We have a lot of roles. I apologize, I didn't look up what's the legal definitions of these things. And then I see page 2, about unprofessional conduct. Well, that probably is okay to protect the public, but I felt there are other things that we do, which include education, and things that are important. And so having it right in the front when you're first looking at it, the first real sense of the document to me seemed limited. I think it applies to discipline on the unprofessional conduct, but I'm not sure it applies to making a medical error or not knowing something, especially when you're in training.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I'll defer to Heather. I think I know what she's going to say. Please go ahead, Heather.
Sure, this is Heather. I was just going to let you know that so the purpose of the commission is defined by the legislature, which is in your statute. And the first number one thing is to exercise police power of the state to protect the public. So that is where that comes from. It is the first legislative purpose of the commission.
But don't we have other purposes as well?
Yes, you are to regulate, you are to regulate the competency and quality of healthcare providers and license and adopt rules and policies and procedures. So, but the paramount thing has been and continues to be protecting the public.
All right, well, thanks for providing that. It's just that we do have other things that we talk about, which is to re-educate as well, which falls under that. But to protect the public seems like someone is evil, right? It falls under the unprofessional conduct as opposed to someone doesn't know something or makes a medical error. So that's why I thought softening it with another couple words might be useful, if that is in the jurisdiction, which is what we do, to be honest.
You could certainly add something, or but
I don't think it would be the end of the world if we said something like promoting patient safety. I think that's kind of all encompassing.
Yeah, that would be fine. I like that. Just something to give it. There is a broader mission, I think.
Micah, can you add that in the kind of the couple phrases where it appears?
I'm not sure it needs to be under unprofessional. The one under unprofessional conduct, I do feel that is the protect the public is appropriate because there are issues there. Yeah,
I can add it to the first sentence.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trescott.
Yes, I actually agree with Karen once again. I think I don't know what care exactly as much what the legislature says, but this is our document about our policy, and it is broader than just carrying out disciplinary role to protect the public. We also have a role in monitoring educational progress, helping to support and rehabilitate when there are problems. So there's a broader role we play, and we're very conscious of it. And I do think we intend to maybe do discipline, but to do it in a way that's supportive of clinicians as they practice and may make mistakes at times. So I think there is a way to say this that's much softer and actually speaks more to what we would like to be doing with this commission. We aren't just disciplining people. So maybe the legislature wants to say that, but I don't know that we have to say it exactly the way they do it. That's it. We ask for education and monitor how that education is going. We actually ask for professional evaluations if we're worried about neurological problems or psychiatric problems. And we do a broad array of things. And some of it's to support the physician. And most of it is to protect the public, but it's also to support the physician. And when we are read as not supporting, just disciplining, we get overreading of what we're doing and people actually making mistakes in the opposite direction, being overly strict themselves. And that isn't where we want to go. Medicine is more humane than that in its practice, and it should be in our practice as well. That's all. So Micah, can you do that?
Make miracles? Yeah, I do that all the time. So, yeah, I can work on adding a more human-centered element to it. I will just point out that this is a policy about how we approach complaints filed against these particular classes of trainees. So this is sort of core to that disciplinary aspect of how are we going to handle that. But I certainly will make sure to try and emphasize the educational piece.
Well, it fits in this document because in this document, we're actually protecting the residents from us. We're saying, yes, we do act in a disciplinary way, but at the same time, we want to support young clinicians just learning the trade. We can say it actually pretty quickly in that way, and that there's more to it than just discipline. And that's
Okay.
what we're doing with this document, actually.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Trescott. I didn't see any other hands up. Amelia, I don't know if you.
No, there's none
Any
other
other-
that I can see.
Thank you.
So Ms.
Any other
Blake,
comments?
just
Yes.
a clarification, at this point we're sending it back for revision and not sending it
Yes.
forward to the commission, correct?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, I don't know if we need further other people's opinion, but I think, things have, I think just a word or two make a big difference in the tone right at the beginning of the document, especially for trainees. So I'm happy, you'll get further comments. Christine maybe can tell the people who read it, make comments.
Okay, if there aren't any other further comments, then we'll defer this. Bring it back next time. Thank you all for that robust conversation. Our second document is a guidance document on sexual misconduct and abuse. I had a couple things that I saw when I read this document. On page 2, number 8, I just wondered if we needed the sentence, or it could be deleted, that abusive behavior by a practitioner harms patients. I wasn't sure if we needed that sentence in there. I don't know how everybody else feels. It's in the middle of the paragraph somewhere towards the end. And just leave that out and just say the Washington Medical Commission does not tolerate sexual misconduct or abuse in any form. Anybody have any?
I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's clear as I went through it. I did a little bit of a slash and burn. So by all means, it certainly states that almost the exact same thing, in the next sentence.
And the other one on page 2B, let me see, I'll find it here myself too. In the comment, and the sentence uses or exploits. I'm trying to find it now myself. I didn't like the word needs at the end of the sentence. I'm trying to find it right now. I don't know, Amelia, if you can find it easily enough.
Probably not, but I can give you a little bit of background on this.
Okay. There it is. I found it. Okay. Yeah.
Heather, I'm going to mute you because you got a lot of background noise. The secretary updated their rule, and so we're just trying to bring this in line with
Got it.
that. And so some of that language may be directly from the secretary's WAC.
Okay. Okay. It's in the former patients or key third parties, letter B.
Letter B. Okay, so it's down farther, I'm assuming.
Yeah, sorry. It's down at the end of the page. Uses or exploits privileged information or access to privileged information to meet the practitioner's personal or sexual needs. The word needs just kind of struck me, but if that's, go ahead, Micah.
I'm going to phone a friend to either Heather or Kyle,
Okay.
because I believe that is the Secretary WAC, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
All right. Otherwise, any other comments from anybody else while Micah phones a friend?
You know, I thought the document was pretty much fine. I had a couple of minor comment things for the way the sentences are, but there's one thing that I did think we should discuss, which is on page 3, under guideline K. It just uses the word physician there. I had a little trouble. Yeah. I mean, we're the rest of our are all in practitioners, or the practitioner, the following behaviors. Yeah, a physician
Yeah.
communicating their a practitioner communicating their sexual history, preferences, or
Yeah.
fantasies to the patient. I don't know, so I didn't like the way that was phrased.
It
That's
looks like
my
we do
mistake.
interchange them. Yeah.
That's a drafting error. They should have all been changed out to practitioner.
Practitioner. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Domino. Good call on that one. Dr. Trescott?
First of all, that same error is made in H, where they say physician rather than practitioner. I'm just gonna, this is kind of silly, but I find the word mischief sets a funny tone for this document. That it's probably a direct quote from somewhere, but we start out this section with the word mischief in it, which is pretty outdated. And if we have to, I guess we can, but it seems like a funny intro.
Are you at the beginning of the document or?
Right at the beginning, there's that kind of it's italicized or whatever.
Oh,
in the quote.
it's the
at the
quote.
beginning.
In the quotes.
Okay.
That's a quote, though. What that is from Hippocrates.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I mean, I didn't like the word mischief either, but
well, I don't think it sets the right tone. And
yeah.
There's a reason it's outdated, I guess, if it's Hippocrates.
Well, that's true.
Would you like
well,
to
even
delete
if
the
we
quote?
put
Do you not want it there?
Under.
Yeah. I mean, do you not want this excerpt from your Hippocratic Oath? You want to just take it out?
Well, you can leave. You can change it maybe to and sexual relations of both male and female persons. I mean, I don't know, I actually like the quote. I thought it was interesting because I never knew that, but I agree that word mischief is outdated.
I
And
think
it
we
is
need
referenced.
Yeah. Yeah, it is referenced though, as your Hippocratic Oath, 4th century BC as it is, but
We've just never had the
I think-
mischief as part of it that we learned.
direct. Well, yeah.
But put in there that this is Hippocrates. Put in there from the Hippocratic Oath, either before or after the comment, so that it's put in context.
Instead of as a footnote.
And it's up at the top, right where the comment is made, where the word mischief is.
Yeah.
The footnote could
but-
be there, but put from Hippocrates,
Yes,
or just,
from
and then
Hippocrates,
have the details from the
Okay.
Hippocrates Oath, 4th century BC. So I guess you may not, there is some kind of reference listed there, but that could be put at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it needs to be put up where the quote is, so
Yeah.
people are in context.
Yeah, I
So-
was a little shocked at seeing that, and then I saw the quote, so I looked down below. I said, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah. So no
But those
footnote,
of us that
just
don't look
right there.
below are.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if there's some footnote. It says GUI 12202 XXXX. I don't know what that is. If that's a from our document, or whether that's from something, but
You could just
So
put
that-
it right at the top, excerpt from the Hippocratic Oath, and take the footnote out. What
The
do you think,
GUI
Micah?
Sorry, the GUI is the number
Guidance
that will be
document.
assigned to this document. That's what that is.
Oh, okay. So there really
Yeah.
isn't a good reference. I mean, it's just from it, so it easily could just be up there, not a particular citation in a document that we have to reference.
Any other comments?
Just another one about the physician-patient relationship under definitions, mid part of page 2. Same thing about without, you know, you have physician there, but it's also practitioner.
Yeah. I think that you were going to do a search on practitioner versus physician.
Yeah, you could, those are the two I saw, so I
Yeah.
obviously missed some.
Yeah.
And just so the group is aware, no, I'm sorry, I did add in. I was going to say I needed to add in 2 other chapters, but it looks like they're already in there.
Okay. Did we have outside comment on this? Did we already go over that? Amelia?
We didn't receive any written comments on this.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't think so, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. Any other comments? Can we move this one forward with those minor changes that we asked of Micah?
It's fine with me.
Good with
So I
me.
think we need a motion, if I'm correct, to
So
approve.
moved.
I move that we move this forward with aforementioned corrections.
Okay, so we have a move in a second. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, our next document is policy on elective educational rotations. I don't have any comments on this one myself, so.
And this one is just up for its 5-year review. So you can choose to make changes to it, reaffirm it as written, or you can rescind it. Those are your options.
Thanks, Amelia. Dr. Lyle?
You're muted.
Oops.
As I was reading the document and the title elective educational rotations, it took me a bit to figure out these are like guest folks that aren't within our institutions and aren't within maybe our, visiting from another state or that kind of a thing, which I did when I was resident. I practiced in Alaska for 2 rotations and so on. But it says in the state of Washington are exempt from licensure, blah, blah, blah. But it just isn't clear to me that we're talking about visiting, because I was like, well, why would medical students, what does this have to do? Because I did a lot of electives when I was training. It just wasn't very clear to me. Now, maybe, that's not enough. I don't want to ditch this whole thing going forward. But I just wanted to say it's just kind of unclear what the policy is directed towards in my mind, the way it's titled. So again, I don't have a specific edit or anything to do going forward. It just took me a little bit to kind of get my head around, that's what we're talking about here. For whatever it's worth.
Sure. So would you like a title change on it? Is that what you're needing, or are you wanting something more explanatory, like in the policy section?
I don't know. It might be maybe just a title change, because as you get into the body of it, you realize what's going on there. So I don't know if it means like guest elective rotations, or I don't know what the terminology would be. And this, again, this is a very minor point, but.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure of the history on this. My guess is it was a requested clarification from training programs. And as far as the in Washington piece, that's just because, as defined, the practice of medicine occurs at the time and location of the patient for Washington statute purposes. So with that being said, I can try and come up with a more descriptive title and have you all consider that at the business meeting if you'd like.
Kyle, it might help if we actually put another word, and I just exemptions for the word exemption up in the title might really clarify things, because that's what the focus of this is. Not that they're elective, it's more that we are going to name an exemption for this group
Okay.
of practitioners.
Okay. Yeah, I can work something with that.
So then do you want to bring this to the business meeting with a suggested title change?
I think it's, yeah.
Is that what okay. Do we need a motion on this one, Amelia? Or are we just bringing it for? Go ahead.
Yeah, you need a motion just to
Okay.
say that that's the plan. You're going to bring an
Okay.
amended document.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And our next document is an interpretive statement, opioid prescribing and monitoring. Any comments on this one?
So we do have both of the interpretive statements in this packet. This one is for it's geared towards physicians and physician assistants, obviously. And then the next one is for patients. And we did get some comments from the Washington Patients and Intractable Pain folks. And they want a change. I don't know if you've had a chance to read these, but this document is just like an introduction to what they would like. And then they have a document, I believe, for each interpretive statement.
I did see those. Yeah.
You can make changes to the interpretive statement based off of these suggestions, or you can choose not to make changes based off of these suggestions.
Did everybody get a chance to take a look at these before the meeting? Dr. Domino?
Well, maybe Micah wants to go first. I can go afterwards.
It's just a process question. So Amelia, we've got the general chapter open as well as the opioid prescribing chapter simultaneously for the rules, right?
So the opioid sections are not open yet. We have to wait until the current rulemaking for opioid prescribing, those small changes that we made on tapering, things like that, until those are effective. Those won't be effective until sometime next month. And then we'll have a 101 open on those sections. But these suggested changes are specifically to the interpretive statement. Now, if you choose to make changes to the interpretive statement based on these comments, then you will need to make those, because what we try to do with interpretive statements when we open rulemaking related to what the interpretive statement is about, we try to incorporate those interpretive statements. So if you choose to make changes to the language in these two documents based on these comments, then you will need to also consider making changes to the rule language. You don't have to make the language change. You can just keep it an interpretive statement, but you would need to consider whatever interpretive statement you approve to be adopted as part of the rulemaking language when we get to the workshops for that rulemaking.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at as far as the process. Does it make sense to amend these now? And I want to acknowledge Cindy Hohenhaus's comment that, people have kind of run roughshod with the CDC stuff and our rules and sort of misapplied some things to do forced tapering, regardless of function and quality of life, which is obviously the exact opposite of what we wanted these interpretive statements to be used for. So, I guess the question is, does it make sense to change these now, or do we start rulemaking next month and work on not only changing the rules, but the statements as well?
So the one thing I would say about that is that the interpretive statements are a faster track.
Okay.
So the rulemaking is going to take probably 2 years, right? Because the fastest we've ever finished standard rulemaking is 18 months. So these are controversial rules. We get a lot of comments. We have to have a lot of workshops. And so I assume that that rulemaking process will take at least 2 years. And we're not even going to start workshops until probably May, June, something like that. So this is a faster track. And so if you make these changes to the interpretive statement, even though it's not in the rule, it does say that this is how we're interpreting it. And so this is how we are going to base disciplinary matters and things like that on. Now, Heather can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but an interpretive statement holds a little more weight than like a guidance document.
Right. I think I've heard Heather say that. So with that being said, without having a vote, I'm all for the faster track.
Dr. Domino?
Yeah, that was my question as well. And I thought these things were fine. These actually meet with what are in the rules anyway. I think part of the issue is that the lot of the practitioners don't really read or understand the rules and don't follow them. So I didn't go through, word by word, but I thought they were very reasonable, and they're things that we've all discussed as problems of areas of misinterpretation by practitioners.
Thank you. We have Rose Bigham with her hand up.
Hi, that was sort of my question as well about time frame, is if these changes in whatever form may get accepted, what is the time frame for when they get distributed theoretically? And will that be enough to be impactful until such time as the rules may be amended some years from now? So I'm thrilled to hear that some of you seem to think that these are reasonable, because I think they are too, obviously. But yes, if you could clarify timeframe-ish for these bits, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So for these interpretive statements, depending on whether, what the decision is here today at the policy committee meeting, if they decide to move forward with the edits that have been suggested, then we can present a draft at the next business meeting, which is March 14th. And then the commissioners there can approve or send it back for more drafting. If they approve it, then it takes, about 60 days or so to get an interpretive statement adopted and filed. Because you have to file an interpretive statement the same as you do a rule, except it just doesn't take as long. So that would be the process. If they send it back, then it would have to wait until the next policy committee meeting to be reviewed. And then they decide at that point if they want to adopt that language, and then it would go forward to the next business meeting. So it just depends on what happens here today that will affect the timeline.
If I could, and this, of course, would affect only licensed MDs. How would we go about, and I guess this is a question sort of outside the scope, but one would hope that like DOs, ARNPs would also want to match. So would there be some consistent prescribing behaviors and patient experiences in theory? Because honestly, there's a lot of ARNPs that are doing pain medicine this right around now. So I guess we would need to push that in parallel with the other commissions. Is that something you guys can assist with? I say naively.
So we typically inform the other boards and commissions, the other prescribing groups with what we're doing. We let them know. And as far as the interpretive statements, we haven't really informed them in the past. I mean, they obviously know what we're doing, but we can certainly reach out to all of them once these are adopted and they're filed, and we can send them to them and say, this is what we've done, and they can choose to follow along or not. I mean, obviously that's up to them, but these are certainly public documents and can be sent to anyone. So I don't know who wants to go next.
I know we have a lot of hands raised. I see 1, 2, and 3 on my screen. So 1 is Dr. Trescott.
I wanted to say, as someone who served on the last panel that went all over the state for several years to get everybody's opinion, that there are people, and this is a little off subject maybe, but when we set up this panel or the process to change or go through these rules again, I think we need to specifically invite individuals, even with a personal phone call maybe, who are key to interpreting this to the medical community. Like there are, certainly in my old organization, there is someone who's in charge of taking care of how they're managing pain and what's going on. So we need an individual who's in charge of that involved. I know the last time we had the nurse practitioner leadership involved in the meetings and pharmacy leadership involved. But there's also, and also the insurance companies seem to play a big role in some of this as we look at how they're monitoring or paying for this process. So I think a careful look at who we include and how we even personally invite them to the process would be helpful. That was it.
Thank you, Dr. Trescott. Dr. Lyle?
Maybe slightly adjacent. I just wanted to say I really appreciated the sentiment about the validity of the practitioner's treatment on the patient based on available documentation. Because when the charts I reviewed and recent action I was involved with, it was the documentation that was so lacking. And to me, if a practitioner understands that their documentation is where they can show their thinking and prove that the MED doesn't matter, what we're going after is functionality and so on. And as long as that's documented, they'll be okay. So I appreciate the out loud statement of that. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Micah?
Sure, just to respond to what Rose said, these statements and interpretive statements and policy statements go through what's called a secretary review process. And so during that time, they solicit feedback from the other, I'll call them programs, but boards and commissions. So, the nursing commission is going to see this, the osteo board is going to see this. They don't have prescriptive authority right now, but I'm guessing naturopathic advisory or whatever they are board is going to see this, as well as various policy folks in the secretary's office. So it does get looked at as it's going through the process, and very likely they are going to have comment back when we have to consider that secretary review process and what they might want to see added or considerations they might want us to have.
Are there any other comments or questions? I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to read the suggested additions or amendments that were presented as part of this packet to insert the language. Do you feel comfortable with moving this forward to the business meeting with these, or do you want more time to take a look at them?
I looked at them. It was pretty quickly, so I didn't proofread carefully, but I thought they were fine.
So what I can do is I can incorporate these edits in a draft for both documents, and then I can send them out to the policy committee. And I will blind carbon copy you guys because I don't want us to have a meeting and email. So I will send them back. I will get your feedback. And then if you decide right now that based on that, I'm just going to incorporate these edits as she's drafted it, and then we can present that to the commission at the next business meeting if that's what you would like to do today.
Well, I would move that we do that unless there's further discussion, because it sounds
Yeah,
reasonable
and
to me.
I think that's a good
Second.
idea too, as I said, so.
Okay.
All in
Well, I will
favor?
get those drafted
Aye.
next week. Sorry.
Thanks. That's okay.
I'll
Thank
get them
you.
drafted next week and then I'll send them out to you. Probably on Monday.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Amelia. Let's see, where are we at? Go down to, was that the end of our,
Yeah, I think we just have
think
this
so.
comment from Dr.
Yes.
Partlow
Yes,
to possibly discuss.
yes, thank you.
I don't know
Here.
if you want to start or change. I think we have an existing policy already for disruptive physicians. So you can choose to bring that into the next meeting to discuss based on this comment if you would like. And then also just note that Hillary from WISMA has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Hillary?
Oh, thank you. Hillary Norris from WISMA. Just a quick process question on the interpretive statements. To clarify, the edits are getting incorporated into a draft sent back to the policy committee for feedback, and then they might be looked at again at the next business meeting. Is that correct?
Right. So we would
Okay,
have to
thank
present
you.
them at the business meeting before they would be approved for adoption. And I can also post the
Perfect.
draft to our website and send out a notice about that if you'd like.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
helpful. Thanks.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you. Any other hands raised that I maybe missed or don't see, Amelia?
Not that I can see, no.
Okay, thank you. And with regard to this letter from Dr. Partlow, I think folks are reading it. Mike, I do see your hands up.
Sure, just a couple of comments and then some background.
Okay.
First, I'm not totally clear why we received the comment since this is not on any near-term agenda. The second thing is there's just some flatly wrong statements. The disruptive physician policy that you have was actually in large part crafted by a surgeon in a hospital who was a CMO and dealt with, by his description, disruptive physicians for a living. So it was not developed in a vacuum. It was not developed out of ignorance. It was based off of actual experience in a larger hospital in the southern part of the state. With that being said, it's served us well. It's also been the basis of your several disciplinary actions and has been substantiated in a lawsuit. So it's a good document. And so if you would like to reconsider it, by all means, but that's the history that I'm aware of with it.
Thank you, Micah. I
So
don't
I
know
just
who
wanted
was
to
next. Okay, go
interject
ahead.
real quick. I think maybe we received this because the physician competence document is up for review next year. It is on the list on page 2 of the agenda. That may be why we've received this. That's my guess. Sorry.
Yeah, probably it could be, Amelia. It makes sense. I would tend to agree with what Micah said. I think that I read the letter too, and I thought, well, I think we pretty much address it. And I also have worked a lot in the healthcare world, administrative side with disruptive providers, and I think it's a good policy. But this might be a conversation for when we look at this guidance document next, or do we act on this one? Amelia?
So that's up to you. You can move it up in the rotation if you would like to address this comment by making some changes, or you can wait until the 5-year review. I mean, that's really up to you.
Okay. And both Dr. Trescott and Dr. Domino have their hands up, and I don't know whose hand was up first. So,
Well, mine is number one, so I'll get wait. Karen spends is in the operating room all day long, so she probably has the most valid comment. I just need to say, as a commission who have worked through in detail aspects of the disruptive physician, and there is no doubt, and it is well proven that this affects the safety for patients. It is that it's been proven over and over and over again that we have adverse outcomes related to disruptive behavior. So in that light, I wouldn't take it that seriously or change what we're doing based on this letter. But that would be my comment.
thank you. Dr. Domino.
Yeah, and I think the policy is a good policy. Medicine is a team sport. We work with lots of team members, and having a disruptive individual ruins the team relationship and impairs patient safety. We have a lot of history about this. We see some, I see some, and claims related to surgical and anesthesia outcomes. So I think it's just somebody who's old and out of touch with the current state of medicine, which is a team practice.
Thank you, Dr. Domino. Yeah, I pretty much thought that when I read this letter. Well, this is someone that probably hasn't been in the OR in a while. So, are you, Micah?
One last thing, just to clarify, even though it says practitioner competence on the agenda, that link actually takes you to the practitioner health guidance document, which is a structure of advising practitioners to have regular health checkups and assessments so they understand what their baseline is and understand when they're declining. So it's even though that may have generated it, it's not even the correct policy that they're speaking to. It's just not.
Is it this one?
Yeah, practitioner competence, and when I click on it, it takes me to the practitioner health document.
I wonder if it's medical
Professionalism.
professionalism, because we changed the name of it. It's not called disruptive physician anymore, I don't think.
Okay, maybe that's it.
Let me check it. Maybe. It's very long beginning.
No,
In
I
any
think
case, I assumed.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's disruptive physician is a very specific one, and I'm not sure we changed the title on that. This one really talks about just the professionalism aspect.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure and fix this other link then.
Thanks, Amelia. The first sentence in his letter is rather intriguing anyway. I've already sent a letter to your attorney about my time as a disruptive MD. So anyway, that might say it all. So was that, I think that's it on our agenda, unless I'm mistaken.
So you just need to make a decision whether you want to do anything with that comment from Dr. Partlow.
No. Okay.
And then just, it will be in the next business meeting packet as informational.
Okay.
So if you want to call it out, you can, but it will be in there, and I will, it'll be at the end of the packet, the business meeting packet. So.
Okay. Thank you, Amelia. All right. Then I think I want to thank everybody for their time today, for taking a look at all these policies. And this meeting is adjourned. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.